Shen Yi, the divine archer of Chinese mythology. Shen Yi, as I mentioned, is called the divine archer. He's a character that is unique in a lot of ways. One being that he is, or was, a divine mortal. He was a human who, through his deeds, becomes elevated to the status of a god, which is something that's very rare in mythology. We learn about him through massive volumes of Chinese mythology, and he's important because of his association with the sun. And like many other civilizations, the respect for the sun is shown through its deification of figures like this. So for his pantheon or faith, I would relate it to ancient Chinese culture, and that of course is heavily influencing the people of the Yellow River Valley civilizations. Now, Shen Yi was born during a time when the earth was very, very young. And this is when the mythical Emperor Yao ruled China. And there were 10 sons that took turns illuminating the earth. And the Jade Emperor had told them that only one of the sons could play in the sky at a time, or they would destroy the earth. But being young, immature sons, they decided that it was more fun to be together and to play. So all 10 suns appeared in the sky. And predictably, the temperature on Earth rises to an unbearable level, and chaos ensues. Crops are shriveled, and people faint in the street as the Earth is beginning to burn under the heat of these suns. And seeing the opportunity, all the wild animals emerge from the shadows and the darkness and begin to prey on humanity. But luckily, Shen Yi steps forth, and armed with a massive bow made of tiger bones and arrows made of dragon tendon, Shen Yi sets about slaying the monsters terrorizing the countryside. And when he's done, he climbs to the top of the highest mountain to confront the 10 sons. Shen Yi draws back his great arrow and unleashes 9 arrows on the sky, and almost instantly 9 of them fall from the sky. Shen Yi draws back his bow and unleashes 9 arrows upon the suns, and instantly 9 of them fall from the sky. And the 10th son is so afraid that he runs away, plunging the world into darkness. And it is only the call of the rooster that brings that son back, which is why the rooster calls for him every morning, even now. And for his bravery, Shen Yi is rewarded with an elixir of immortality, which unfortunately his wife, Chang Yi, would steal from him. And she would become herself a moon goddess. Now initially Shen Yi was extremely angry with his wife because he hadn't taken the potion himself, because he didn't want to leave her, her being a mortal. But over time he forgives her, and every night brings her an offering to show her that he isn't angry with her anymore. And that becomes among the basis for moon worship, or the lunar deity. Finally, when he dies, he is elevated to the height of the immortal lord of the 10th son. So the two are ultimately reunited in their roles of a lunar deity and a solar deity, which in many pantheons or belief systems around the world, we see that as a very common thing, a very common connection between these two celestial bodies and then the representations through what we call mythology. And obviously, being a solar deity, that brings to mind other representations. The Kemetic idea of Ra, who was the sun god who sits at the head of his pantheon, and also Helios, who comes to us from very early Greek mythology. And through those connections, maybe we understand more about what each of these civilizations thinks about the sun and their place or relationship with this. But almost as importantly, it's the idea of achieving immortality, which is something that we only see a few beings or personalities do throughout many myths, though many have tried. we think first of Enoch and him being anointed and taken from earth to live in the heavenly place. But that also brings to mind Gilgamesh's failed attempt to achieve immortality, where ultimately he dies. These, again, are just some of the connections that make the pursuit or consumption of mythology more interesting, because it gives us an idea of what different people on different parts of the map at different times thought about the world that we all live in. Thank you again for stopping in at Nine World Chronicles. Definitely we have more videos related to these topics that you may want to enjoy, and as always, I'm going to ask that you like and subscribe.